The wind of Series 7 blew like a dry river across the silent land. The ground cracked under the heat of twin suns, and the air tasted of rust and old metal. No birds sang here. No cities stood anymore. Only ruins and broken towers pointed toward a quiet sky. Elara Miles walked slowly through this world. Her steps were weak, but she kept moving forward. She wore a long brown coat that had once belonged to her father, and a torn backpack on her shoulder. Inside the bag, she carried only a small water flask, a broken compass, and a black teaching tablet. The tablet was old and cracked, but it still held stories, lessons, and the last hopes of a lost classroom. Years ago, Elara had been a teacher. She had taught children in the frontier settlement of Green Vale. She had taught them to read, to write, to dream about the stars. She had told them that no matter what happened, humanity could build again. But then the war came. The colonies fell. People ran. Many never returned. Elara stayed behind. She stayed because of a promise. She had made it to a student named Mila, who had looked at her with tired eyes and said, "Please, Miss Elara, don't let learning die." Mila had not survived the last winter storm, but her words lived inside Elara like a flame. So Elara walked. She walked 100 miles across the wasteland toward Haven Ridge, a place that she had only heard about through broken radio signals. It was said to be the last settlement still standing, a place where people tried to build something again, a place where a teacher might still be needed. But the journey was long. Too long. By the third day, Elara's boots had split open. The sole peeled away like old skin. Her socks were torn, and every step cut her feet. She wrapped cloth around them, but it did not help much. The suns burned her skin. The dry wind stole her breath. Her lips cracked, and her hands shook when she tried to drink from the small water flask. But she kept walking. On the fourth day, she passed the remains of an old starport. The towers were tilted and covered in dust. She stopped for a moment in the shadow of a broken wall. Her heart beat slowly. She sat down, feeling the rough ground under her. A small bird, one of the last wild creatures, landed near her. It was thin and weak, just like her. For a second she smiled. Then she stood again and kept walking. Far away, high in the blue-gray sky, a pair of drones circled like quiet watchers. They belonged to Cole Ashford, a man known as the Cowboy of the Rim. He owned the biggest ranch left on Series 7th, a glass-domed land filled with green fields, clean water, and power. He lived alone with his workers and guards. He did not trust the outside world anymore. When the drone sent back images of a lone figure walking through the wasteland, Cole was sitting in his control room. He looked at the screen. A thin woman walked with a slow, steady step, carrying a heavy bag on her back. She did not look like a fighter. She did not look like a thief. She looked like someone who had chosen a road no one else would take. Cole narrowed his eyes. "Who walks 100 miles alone?" he whispered to himself. By the fifth day, Elara could no longer speak. Her voice had cracked from thirst. She had finished the last drop of water. Her legs trembled with every step. Her mind began to drift between dreams and memories. She remembered the sound of children laughing. She remembered drawing stars on a chalkboard. She remembered singing songs in a classroom with walls painted yellow. She remembered hope. Then she opened her eyes and saw nothing but sand and stone. But she kept walking. On the sixth day, a dust storm came. The sky turned red, and the wind screamed like a wild creature. Elara covered her face with her coat and leaned forward. The sand hit her skin like small knives. She could not see more than a few feet ahead. The world disappeared into a storm of dust and noise. She fell once. She stood again. She fell twice. She crawled for a while. Then she stood again. Each step felt like walking through fire. Her legs ached. Her lips bled. Her body begged her to stop. But she whispered inside her head, "One more step, Elara. Just one more." She was no soldier. She was no explorer. She was just a teacher. But sometimes teachers carry the last light of the world. Meanwhile, Cole Ashford watched the storm on his monitor. The drones were losing sight of the woman. He leaned closer to the screen. Something inside him, something quiet and old and stirred. Years ago, he too had watched people walk through the wasteland. Most never made it. He had turned his eyes away then. He told himself it was not his problem. but now he couldn't turn away. He pressed the intercom. "Get my ride ready," he said. Outside the glass dome, a hover Mustang engine roared to life. On the 7th day, Alara's legs finally gave up. Her knees hit the ground beside a rusted radio tower. The tower leaned to one side like a tired giant. She could no longer feel her feet. Her arms shook. She tried to push herself up, but the world spun around her. The tablet fell from her hand and landed in the dust. A soft blue light blinked on its surface. She stared at it as if it were a star. The sun burned above. The wind whispered around the broken tower. Alara closed her eyes. Her breath slowed. For a moment, she thought she heard children singing again, and then she fell forward. The sound of an engine broke the silence. Cole Ashford's hover Mustang glided over the sand like a silver horse. His long coat waved behind him. The storm had passed, but the land still smelled of heat and metal. His eyes scanned the ground. Then he saw her, a small figure lying beside the tower. He stopped the craft and jumped down. The sand crunched under his boots. He walked to her slowly, carefully. She was thin, her face pale from sun and wind. Her lips were dry. Her hands were wrapped around an old teaching tablet. He crouched down and turned her gently onto her back. Her chest moved weakly. She was alive, but only just. Cole was not a kind man. Not anymore. He had built walls around his heart after losing too many people. He had told himself he would never care again. But something about the way she held the tablet, as if it was the most precious thing in the world, made him pause. "Why are you out here?" he whispered. "Why didn't you give up?" She didn't answer. Her eyes were half closed. She whispered something, but the words were too soft to hear. Then her head fell to the side. Cole lifted her into his arms. She was as light as a child. He carried her to the hover Mustang and laid her down gently. He looked back at the silent wasteland. No one followed. No one cared, but he did. Back at the glass-domed ranch, the gates opened as the hover Mustang approached. Workers stared as Cole carried the woman inside. No stranger had entered this place for years. Cole gave no explanation. He took her to the medical room where soft white lights filled the air. Machines hummed quietly. A doctor rushed forward. "Who is she?" the doctor asked. Cole shook his head. "Someone who walked farther than anyone I've seen." The doctor placed a mask over Alara's face and started the hydration process. Her skin was burned, her body weak, but her heart beat steady. She had not let the wasteland break her. Cole stood at the doorway, his arms crossed. For the first time in years, he felt something like respect. Hours later, Alara opened her eyes. A white ceiling stretched above her. The air smelled clean. She felt soft sheets under her back. She tried to sit up, but pain spread through her body like a warning. A man stood near the bed. He wore a dark coat and a hat tilted low. His face was lined from years of hard sun and harder choices. "You're awake," he said in a calm voice. She blinked slowly. "Where am I?" "On my ranch," Cole said. "I found you in the dust." Her eyes widened slightly. She touched the tablet beside her on the bed, making sure it was still there. He noticed the way she guarded it. He had seen people hold gold like that, or water, but never a piece of learning tech. "Why were you walking out there?" Cole asked. Alara's throat hurt when she spoke. "Haven Ridge," she whispered. "I had to get to Haven Ridge. That's 100 miles away." "I know," she said softly. "But I made a promise." Cole frowned. "A promise?" She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. There was tiredness in them, but also something else. Something bright. "I'm a teacher," she said, "and someone must keep the light alive." Cole didn't answer right away. He just looked at her. He had seen fighters, thieves, wanderers, but he had never seen anyone cross the wasteland just to teach. The wind outside howled softly against the glass dome. Inside, two strangers, a teacher and a cowboy, stared at each other, each not yet knowing how much they would change the other's life. The wasteland was wide. The world was broken. But perhaps, just perhaps, something new could begin here. Alara stayed in the white room for 3 days. The machines hummed softly around her. A warm light filled the glass dome of the ranch. The doctors gave her water, food, and medicine. Her body grew stronger each day, but her mind stayed awake all night, thinking about the promise she had made. Cole Ashford visited her once every day. He did not say much at first. He only stood near the door, arms crossed, hat tilted low. He was not used to strangers in his home. For years he had kept the outside world far away, but something about this woman made him stay and listen. On the fourth morning, Alara sat up in bed. Her thin fingers rested on the tablet beside her. She looked at Cole and smiled faintly. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was weak but clear. Cole nodded. "You should rest more." "I can't rest forever," Alara replied softly. "There's still work to do." "What kind of work?" he asked. "Teaching," she said. "I walked to reach Haven Ridge, but I can start here if I have to." Cole raised an eyebrow. "Here?" "Yes," she said, her eyes bright even though her body was tired. "You have people here. Workers, families, children. If no one teaches them, what will they grow up believing in? The world is broken, but learning can fix hearts. It can build something again." Cole looked away. He had built walls, not schools. He had made rules, not dreams. For years, he believed strength alone would keep the ranch safe. But looking at her, something stirred inside him, an old feeling he thought he had buried. The next day, Alara walked through the ranch with a cane. The glass dome shined above her, showing the blue-gray sky outside. Inside, there were green fields, water streams, and barns filled with machines and crops. She saw children playing near the fence while their parents worked on the fields. She smiled. The sound of children laughing made her heart warm. It was the first time she had heard such laughter since the fall of Green Vale. Cole walked beside her. "These children don't go to any school," he said. "We don't have time for that. Everyone works here." Alara stopped and looked at the children again. "You do have time," she said. "If you make it," he frowned. "Why would we need a school? Survival comes first." "Exactly," she said. "And teaching makes survival easier. If they learn, they can build better machines, grow better crops, protect themselves smarter. Learning is not a dream. It's a tool." Cole stared at her. Her voice was soft, but her words were strong. He had never heard anyone speak like that before, not since the war. People had lost hope, but she still carried it like a lantern in the dark. A week passed. Alara slowly grew stronger. She cleaned an old barn with the help of 2 workers and some curious children. She repaired broken solar lamps, painted walls with chalk paint, and built simple wooden benches. The barn smelled of dust and oil, but also of new beginnings. One evening, Cole came to see the barn. A small blackboard stood against the wall. The benches were rough, but ready. Alara stood near the board, holding her old tablet like it was gold. "It's not much," she said, smiling, "but it's enough." Cole walked slowly around the room. "And who said you could use my barn?" She looked at him, not afraid. "No one. But I didn't think you'd say no." Cole laughed softly. It was the first time he had laughed in a long time. "You're brave." "No," she said. "I just believe." He looked at the blackboard again. For some reason, he couldn't say no. "Fine," he said. "But if the children come, you'll need supplies, boards, batteries, ink." "I'll make do with what we have," she said. "But thank you." Cole turned to leave, but before he stepped out, he said quietly, "My father used to say, only a fool tries to build in a broken world. Maybe you're not a fool." "Or maybe," Alara said with a smile, "we need a few brave fools." The next morning, Alara stood at the barn's door as the children arrived. At first, only 5 came. They were shy and unsure. Some had never been to school before. She welcomed them with a warm smile and gave each child a small piece of chalk. "My name is Alara," she said. "I'm not here to make you work. I'm here to help you build." The children sat on the benches, curious. She drew a star on the blackboard. Then she talked about the sky, about other worlds, about how people once traveled between the stars. She told them how learning made ships fly and farms grow. The children listened. They laughed. They asked questions. Their eyes lit up with wonder. Outside the barn, Cole watched quietly. He had expected silence, but instead he heard voices filled with life. He saw children raising their hands, smiling, learning. Something inside him softened. As days turned into weeks, more children came. Then the workers started coming too in the evenings, sitting quietly at the back to learn how to fix machines and read old maps. Alara taught them math, history, and the simple power of asking why. The ranch began to change. People spoke with hope again. They shared ideas. They worked smarter, not just harder. They built small tools to make their work easier. They fixed old generators that had been broken for years. They planted more crops. They started dreaming again. Ilara's school became the heart of the ranch, but not everyone was happy. Outside the glass dome, a group of raiders had been watching. They were men and women who lived by taking from others. When they saw the green fields and the strong walls of Cole's ranch, they made a plan. One night, while the stars shone cold and distant, the raiders moved closer. They wore black masks and carried metal tools. They wanted to break in, steal supplies, and leave the place in ashes. Inside the ranch, Ilara sat with Cole on the porch of the main house. She looked at the sky. "When I first came here, I thought I would walk to Haven Ridge," she said. "But now this place, it's starting to feel like one." Cole leaned back in his chair. "This ranch was strong before, but now it feels alive." "You did that." Ilara shook her head. "No, the people did." He looked at her and smiled slightly. "Maybe, but you reminded them how." Then the alarm sounded. Lights flashed red across the ranch. The sound of sirens filled the air. Cole jumped to his feet. "Raiders!" a guard shouted. "They're at the west fence." Ilara's heart pounded. The children were still inside the barn, reading their lessons. She ran to them at once. Cole and his guards rushed to the fence with weapons ready. Outside, a group of raiders stood near the broken hill. Their leader shouted, "Open the gate and no one gets hurt." Cole stepped forward, voice firm. "This is our land, leave." The raiders laughed. "You think you can stop us?" Cole narrowed his eyes. He had defended his land before, but now it felt different. It wasn't just about protecting food or walls. It was about protecting a future. Inside the barn, Ilara calmed the children. She closed the wooden doors and told them to stay low. "We are not powerless," she whispered. "We are together." She ran to the small control room she had helped fix weeks earlier. It was an old system, but it still worked. She activated the emergency shield Cole had ignored for years. The power lines she had helped repair with the older workers came to life. Blue light spread across the glass dome like a shield of stars. Outside, the raiders shouted in anger as the shield blocked their path. Cole turned to see the blue glow above him. "You did this?" he said, surprised. Ilara ran to his side, out of breath. "No," she said. "We did this. The people fixed it. The children learned it. Everyone helped." For a moment, Cole said nothing. Then he smiled, a rare, real smile. "Good work, teacher." The raiders tried to break the shield, but they could not. The people of the ranch stood together. Farmers, workers, children, and the teacher who had once walked through a dead world. They were no longer just survivors. They were builders. After hours of trying, the raiders left. The ranch stood safe. That night, the people gathered under the dome. They cheered, clapped, and sang songs around the fire. Cole stood beside Ilara as she looked at the glowing shield in the distance. "You know," Cole said softly, "I thought power was only in strength. Guns, walls, rules." Ilara looked at the children dancing. "Real power," she said, "is when people believe in something together." He nodded slowly. "You gave them that." She shook her head with a smile. "I only reminded them they already had it." Weeks later, Haven Ridge finally sent a message to the ranch. They had heard about a place with fields, working power, and a school. They asked if they could join forces. Cole read the message to Ilara. "They want us to become a learning hub," he said, "to build something bigger." She looked at him with shining eyes. "Then let's build." And so the ranch grew. More people came. More children learned. More fields bloomed. Cole Ashford, the cowboy who once trusted only himself, became the protector of a dream. And Ilara Miles, the teacher who walked 100 miles, became the light that guided them. The world was still broken. The wasteland was still wide. But under the glass dome, hope was growing like green grass after a long storm. Because humanity was not just surviving anymore. It was remembering how to rise.